Let's talk about the drug industry a little bit. And you mentioned prune juice and not being able to put anything on a label. I think walnuts came under fire not too long ago for the same reason. Talk about what steps have to be taken in order to get something on a label, and why only drug companies then are able to do that. So how does a company get to say this product X can treat condition Y?
Well, in the first instance, it is absolutely prohibited under federal law for a food or a dietary supplement to have a treatment claim on their label. So it is absolutely forbidden, even if you have unquestionably strong scientific proof establishing that a food treats disease, like, for example, the prune juice example, that prune juice is a treatment for chronic constipation. That is forbidden for foods and supplements, only available for substances that are approved as drugs. To obtain drug approval is an extraordinarily expensive and arduous enterprise that is largely limited to these state-sponsored monopolies that are the existing drug companies that we all know. And those drug companies expend on average $600 million per drug to bring it from the discovery phase to the FDA approval phase. The application for a new drug alone is over $290,000 just to pay the fee for the application. And the process of review is politicized and highly vulnerable to influences from these drug companies. So newcomers are oftentimes battered about in this process, find it very, very vexing, and oftentimes drop their discoveries and their innovations altogether, rather than go through the expense and difficulty of spending years and years and years of doing this. Most people can't afford the process. To give you an example, on the medical device side, Dr. Martin Winehouse at the Cleveland Clinic, he's a nuclear physicist and physician, and he was in the Department of Oncology there, and he worked on radiation treatments for breast cancer, trying to perfect the treatments so that they would provide the dose of radiation to the specific cancerous tissue and not damage surrounding tissue, which is always a problem with radiation treatment. Not a treatment that's pleasant or one that I would recommend, but it's something that sometimes is of necessity, a way to go for many women. And he used this computer program. He created a medical app that did all the computations that they ordinarily do by hand to determine for 3 different radiation machines that are used simultaneously to attack the cancer, precise measures that would make it a perfect delivery system. And the manual computations at best took a half an hour of a doctor doing these, and then frequently they were in error because they're complex and they would have to do them over again. Even then they would have underdosing and overdosing problems associated with it, largely because the human computations were not exact. So this was an extraordinary innovation, and he filed an application with the Device Center at FDA to get approval, and it was a drawn-out long process, and suddenly he started to receive these queries, which are typical of the agency, particularly with an unknown entity. You would think that someone who's this man's rank within the Cleveland Clinic and had all of these staff people who are also physicists and expert in this, and certainly knew far more than the FDA ever could possibly understand about these things, would be respected, but that's not the case. He presented an opportunity for competition to incumbent medical device manufacturers that would create difficulties for them in the market. The increasing emphasis on medical apps from IT companies is overwhelming the medical device marketplace, because it's creating instances where you may alter the functioning of existing medical devices or improve their functioning or substitute for them through the use of technology that has largely been unregulated until now. The FDA has become very aggressive in trying to get it regulated. But so what happened to him was he received these queries from the FDA, one of which was, please establish for us that your software program can apply to all forms of hardware for carrying it, and in addition to all future iterations of that hardware, and will not be affected by future iterations of software. This, of course, is impossible because software and hardware change constantly,
Sure.
and software, particularly weekly, is changing. There are updates constantly, so this is not possible. It's a question that ensures that there is no positive answer possible. He contacted the agency and asked the agency whether they could reconsider this question because it was an impossible one to answer. And even if they had all of their team working full-time on this, crunching out computations and trying to determine exactly how modifications could be made and so forth, it was an impossible task, a very costly enterprise that would get you nowhere. They said, no, we want an answer to this question. So he realized that they wanted to prevent him from getting approval. So he dropped it, and as a consequence, women across the country who have radiation treatment for breast cancer still have the underdosing and overdosing problems because this innovation is not available.